Hello, Malcolm here, and welcome. Welcome to Tuesday Teaching Tips, episode 95. And today I have a question at the beginning, and that is, when you're speaking, when you're preaching and you're teaching, when you're in that public arena, are you positioning yourself as the hero or the guide? Are you the hero or the guide? The difference between these two is profound and makes a big difference to the effectiveness of our communication. Does our audience receive us as the hero of what we're talking about, or the guide to what we are talking about? And I would submit that although there's a temptation to be the hero, really we're more often, appropriately, the guide. Not saying, follow my example because I'm the ideal and you need to do exactly what I've done, but more the guide. We may use our own example in our guiding, and that's fine, but we're using the whole of us as an example, including our frailties, our weaknesses, and our mistakes, as much as our victories. And being the guide is a lot less threatening to the people to whom we are speaking. And I think it does more justice to the gospel. When we're proclaiming the gospel, when we're teaching people what we've found in this great book, and what God has shown us, then being the guide puts us alongside people much more than being the hero, which tends to distance ourselves. If we position ourselves as the hero, we then necessarily distance ourselves from our listeners, and that's not a good place to be if we want to be effective in our communication. Another book I read about preaching and teaching put it this way, that we want to be the window rather than the picture. In other words, we're pointing to the window saying, look through this at this, look through, let me show you this through that window, rather than I'm the picture. Look at me, I'll tell you what this is all about, you just need to look at me. Instead of that, we should be pointing out the window saying, look at what's on the other side there, look at that, it's an amazing thing. So it's that kind of image. No, none of these images communicate things perfectly, but I think they give an idea. So what about an example of this? Well, when I was thinking about this, the example of Peter came to mind in Acts chapter 10 and his encounter with Cornelius and his household. And I think he sets a good example there of being a guide rather than a hero. Couldn't Peter have been the hero? He was one of the apostles. He was Jesus' right-hand man. He was the one to whom the keys were being given. He did seem to be the leader amongst the apostles. In Acts chapter 1, Acts chapter 2, and Acts chapter... he's got the right to position himself as a hero, but how does he position himself when he encounters Cornelius and has the chance to do some public speaking in front of Cornelius and the people that have gathered in his home? Let's have a look at this. So in Acts chapter 10, he goes to the house. You'll have to look at the rest of Acts 10 for the background, but he gets to Cornelius' house, and as he enters in verse 25, Cornelius meets him, and it says he fell at his feet in reverence. That's what you would do for a hero. But Peter made him get up. Stand up, he said. I am only a man myself. Can you see there right at the beginning? He will not let Cornelius see him as the hero. He is insistent that Cornelius sees Peter as a peer, just a person like him. Peter is positioning himself as the guide right here. He goes inside and finds a gathering of people. He says, I shouldn't really be here according to my background as a Jew, but I've been sent for, so here I am. Cornelius tells him the story of the vision he had, and the angel telling him to call for Peter. And Peter says, I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts from every nation the one who fears him and does what is right. And then he tells them about the things they already know, rather than the specialist knowledge that he has. He says, you know the message God sent to the people of Israel. You know what has happened throughout the province of Judea, and how about Jesus, how he went around doing good, and so on. And then he talks about himself. We are witnesses of everything he did. So I want to guide you to the deeper meaning of this. You've heard about Jesus. You've heard about what he did. I was a witness, so I have a special position here in helping you, but I'm not here to be the hero. They killed Jesus. God raised him from the dead. He was not seen by all the people, but by witnesses. The focus there is on God, of course. He commanded us to preach Not to be perfect, not to be the hero, but just simply to preach. He commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that he is the one whom God appointed as judge of the living and the dead. All the prophets testify about him that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. And while he's still speaking, the Holy Spirit comes. It's amazing what happens. And then Peter says, let's get these people baptized. It's obvious that God intends that. And then they ask him to stay for a few days. I love the way that Peter approaches this. Peter was not always the most humble man. Peter, if you've read the Gospels, struggled with this kind of issue, yet something has happened to him. So has happened to him in his encounters with Jesus at the end of the Gospel of John, the beginning of the book of Acts. He's begun to realize he's not meant to be the hero. He's meant to be the guide. So let me ask you, as you think about the next opportunity that God is giving you to speak, to teach, to preach, or in any setting where you've got other people listening to you, how can you position yourself as the guide, not as the hero? Not to say that you can't be a good example and you can't use your own example to help people, but not as a hero, but more as a guide, pointing the way, showing how it could be done, how one can live, what faith really means. What does it mean to you to be a guide rather than a hero? I'd love to know. So could you please leave a comment wherever you hear or see this recording, because not only will I learn, I'd like to, but also everybody who reads these and watches these and listens to these will also benefit. We learn best when we learn in community. So thank you for that. And also, one last favor, I'd like to ask, please pass the link to this recording on to one other person that you think might benefit from what we're talking about here and in these recordings in general. Thank you very much. I appreciate your attention. Thanks for listening and watching. And if you have ideas for other episodes, then please let me know. Drop a comment in the comment box. So until the next time, I hope you have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful week. God bless.